But let's talk about San Diego Comic-Con. This is the pop culture convention. You know, you tried to explain. I remember when I was at G4 and I said, I got to take a day off, take the weekend off. I gotta go to Comic-Con.
Wait, Chris, tell him the year.
This was 2005. And I said, I gotta take, I can't do the show this week. I'm going to Comic-Con. And they said, what's that? A convention for comedians? No, it's Comic-Con. So Rob and I have been going since the 90s. Many of you have gone. What are we excited about? Saturday is a Marvel panel, the first one in a long time.
No, they're having two.
Right, two. There's one on Thursday that is a Deadpool celebration of life. I somehow was able to get a pass to go to that. Dante, you're going. A lot of us are going. What are we looking forward to? How has it changed? General thoughts. And then I have some news stories about the con we'll take a look at.
Yeah, I'll hop in real quick. So for me, I've been going to Comic-Con since 2003, when you could still buy badges at the door. Remember that? Yeah. And it was an experience, man. I've been a comic book nerd since the 80s, and that experience blew my mind. For any of you guys who've never been to Comic-Con, man, it's changed. It's not quite as sparkly as it used to be, but it's still a great experience, and you should, if you could find a way to go, you should go. But as far as what I'm looking forward to, not much other than hanging out with some friends. There are a couple of panels I definitely am going to go watch because I just have to. Rob, yours is one of those.
Oh, thank you.
And the other being the Mortal Kombat panel. But yeah, Comic-Con's a great time. It's a fun time. It is pretty pricey because of the hotels, but other than that, if you can find a way to go, you should definitely go.
I think one of the really interesting things for me, this will be my 36th Comic-Con.
Show off.
My first was I moved to LA in 1988, and I went to go to school, and I went in college, and I went to Comic-Con by myself. And my biggest purchase there was a Japanese laserdisc of Akira, which didn't have any subtitles. And I found a Japanese student at USC who I made him come over with some buddies. I don't. But I do have
the value.
I have the 4K. I have the 4K Japanese import disc of it with English subtitles. But the thing about Comic-Con, it really is. It's become it's always been this way, but it's a glorious, happy event where you now can see multi-generations of people that go, whole families. You see, when I went there, it's still old sweaty dudes rifling through comic books. That was about it. But watching the transition, you had things watching, for instance, the female crowd, female fans kind of erupt through Comic-Con. At first, it was like Sailor Moon and anime, and then gaming and comic books like Emily the Strange and Death. And then watching it all through the 90s, bringing in all different kinds of people. It expanded in terms of its footprint. It wasn't just comic books anymore. I remember when the thing that really freaked me out was the movie Wolf, Mike Nichols' movie Wolf, that Jack Nicholson starred with James Spader. Jack Nicholson came to Comic-Con, and I think that was 95. And I was like, there's no way. Why would Jack? I mean, I know he was in Batman, but he didn't come to Comic-Con. And when he came to Comic-Con, it was like a watershed moment. And in 94, when the Image Comics creators, it was the first year it was there, like Rob Liefeld brought his 1-to-1 scale Youngblood spaceship that he brought into the display hall that you could walk into. And if you ever meet Rob Liefeld, who's one of the funniest, nicest dudes ever, ask him to tell you the story of why did he build a 1-to-1 scale spaceship and bring it to Comic-Con. That was he had me in stitches for half an hour telling me that story because he never thought about how it would get to Comic-Con or what he would do with it once Comic-Con was over. But when it was like seeing the Beatles, all the Image creators were there. And then as it's progressed, Chris, I think when you guys were doing Sci-Fi Universe, I met Mark Altman in 94 when Sci-Fi Universe magazine co-sponsored a screening of Full Moon's Oblivion with George Takei, and the buses didn't show up to bring the people to the screening, and Peter David was reading from his Incredible Hulk comics to keep the audience pacified so they didn't go crazy.
Well, Film Threat in the 90s, we would have a booth at Comic-Con. We sold videos and magazines. We had the cast of the Corman Fantastic Four at the Film Threat booth. We did sponsored a screening of Kevin Smith's Mallrats. I know I'm dating myself there, but we did a lot of stuff there, and we've seen it, as you pointed out. A sighting of a woman at Comic-Con was like seeing Bigfoot in the wild. It was not in the 90s. Now, it changed late 90s more and more, and by early 2000s, and I believe Marvel movies had a lot to do with lots of female fans who are legit fans. They're there to buy stuff, collect stuff, whether it's comics, anime, whatever. The brands like Her Universe.
Oh, that was a big deal.
It's a huge deal. So now it is legit 50-50 women and men.
Yeah,
right?
and families too, which is great to see multi-generations of people. I mean, we started this goofy panel in 2002 that we're doing again this year. It was started as a joke. They asked us, because I was doing panels since 94, and they asked our little coterie of ne'er-do-wells to come up with a panel idea. So we came up with this idea, Starship Smackdown. Could the Battlestar Galactica beat up the Starship Enterprise? And we started, but it wasn't serious. Like, I would say things like, well, a Star Destroyer is just full of clones of Tamora Morrison and uptight British dudes, where the Starship Enterprise has women in go-go boots and short skirts. So the Enterprise wins. That
Wait,
would be
Rob,
my
is that
logic.
the one you guys do on Sundays?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the thing what freaked me out, I think it was they did a story of this on NPR in like 2011. But then one year, Neil deGrasse Tyson walks in. And I'm like, there is no way he's going to sit for this nonsense. And not only did he sit for the nonsense, it came down to a tie between the original Enterprise from Star Trek, the original series, and the motion picture Enterprise. And we threw it out to the audience. Does anyone have anything to say? Does anyone want to speak for one or the other? And Neil deGrasse Tyson raises his hand and stands up and gives this impassioned speech about why the original classic Enterprise. You can see this on YouTube. And I swear to God, I was crying. I'm like watching Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about the Starship Enterprise in Starship Smackdown. And I'm just like tearing up. I can't believe this. Oh my God. So, and you never know who you're going to run into. Last year, we're all getting hammered out at the Marriott pool. And Todd McFarlane just saunters up and starts talking to us. You never know who you're going to meet there. That's the big fun of Comic-Con. It's just running into people and having the most
like you're constantly running into people on the floor all the time. People who like you would never see in your day-to-day.
No. And you end up talking to big stars. You end up going to hotel room parties. You never know who's going to show up there. And all of San Diego is it's one gigantic nerd circus.
You end up
that's the best part. The
Leia
Gaston
costume.
District is the best part of Comic-Con for me, man. It's the walking around, seeing people in cosplay, eating at restaurants together, like it's a good time, man.
Yeah.
Conclusion of Starship Smackdown 2012. Captain Quinn in command of the Enterprise refit. So you think during that scene in dry dock it'd be
By the way, there's like 1,000 people in that room too.
The Jaws theme to the Enterprise dry dock sequence. I just give a special thanks.
He was just hiding there the whole time. It's crazy.
I've got to offer a perspective that has not yet been shared today.
You have a lovely voice.
Someone say you're like, okay. Consider how much effort in so many other professions are invented in trying to compare excellence in one era with excellence in another. They try to do this in baseball. Who's better, Babe Ruth versus someone generations later? And it's very hard, but they always converge on the following fact, that what matters is not what they look like now, but what they look like to others at the time that they prevailed. And when I look at our poster that was offered this evening, there is only one spaceship that's earlier than that one in that entire poster, and that's the flying saucer from the day the Earth stood still, and its weaponry was only the guy in silver underwear. So, what matters here is, what did that spaceship look like at the time it came out, compared with anything that had been imagined before? And when you consider that, that is the most astonishing, awesome, beautiful, seductive, powerful machine that has ever graced the screen.
I was in tears, just in tears. Come on.
Very cool. Very cool.
And you didn't know that, like, I'd seen him walk in. I didn't think he was going to stay for 2 hours and listen to our nonsense. And there he was when he stood up. You saw the response. But that's Comic-Con. You never know who's in your room. You never know who's going to just show up in front of you and you'll end up talking to them.
I've met so many people. I saw Francis Ford Coppola buying comic books, looking through long boxes. You see famous people will, wear masks. You hear about that? Like Sam Raimi wearing masks and just going and just to look because they want to, they'd be there because they're legit nerds. And it literally, to me, the people who make the best stuff are legit nerds. It comes from that. There's a great clip from that Star Wars Episode 1 documentary, The Beginning, where you see George Lucas and Spielberg on the set of Episode 1, and they're both geeking out over the battle droids. Like, they're kind of the stormtroopers of this trilogy. Yeah, the battle droids. They're going, oh, that's going to be cool. Oh, it's going to be cool. Those are two nerds geeking out. That happens all the time at Comic-Con. It's so, I guarantee you this. Leslie Headland has never been to Comic-Con, wouldn't understand the culture, and would make the typical joke of making fun of people for having BO or being too nerdy, and she could not relate to those people. The people who make the best nerd stuff are nerds themselves. You mentioned Elaine, Denis Villeneuve, like in his mind, I want to make Dune since I was a kid. Like that's what it's about. And I can't tell you how many experiences, some I can tell you publicly, some Rob and I will have a private conversation of crazy stuff that's happening at Comic-Con. Like, we've been kicked out of places. There's wild stories. The Wired Lounge comes. That's a whole.
I missed that.
Oh, the Wired Lounge was such a good time.
The Wired Lounge was the greatest. I mean, that was the greatest. The Wired Cafe.
Yes.
In because we said he was a famous comedian, and they believed.
Oh, that's right, the Kevin Smith thing. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah. They badged you up right away. There's just crazy stories of Comic-Con. And also, I was only on the Starship SmackDown panel once, and I was kicked out after that. I destroyed the Enterprise on a panel. You can find photos. I'm wearing safety glasses, and I brought a hammer. Do you remember that, Rob?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that. But but it's awesome. It's just, now, I don't think it's as fun as it used to be. It's become increasingly corporate. It's become influenced too much by Hollywood. But to their credit, they still do like small panels. We're doing a panel on Saturday. Rob, you're on it.
Yep. And I've got two panels on Thursday, and then we're doing Starship SmackDown on Sunday.
But I think what pushed Comic-Con over.
Don't miss the Sunday panel for Rob for Starship SmackDown. I always end Comic-Con there. It's just.
To be clear, I'm only going to that Wednesday, the Film Threat meetup. So that's where, but have fun at the con. Have fun storming the con, boys.
I think what pushed Comic-Con over the top, though, was G-Force presence or Attack of the Show's presence that year. And I can't remember what year that was. Was it 98, 97?
Don't remember. 08. Or was it 08 or 07?
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, 08 or 07. Was it around that time? Chris? Like 07 and 08 is when they had that huge booth. Right. Because I remember it was after that, like everyone. It was after that year you couldn't buy badges at the door anymore.